Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a loop, waking up each day with the same foggy mind, the same struggles, and wondering if true clarity is even possible? What about walking into a room and completely forgetting about why you went there? Or even staring at your computer screen, knowing you have something important to do, but your mind feels like it's swimming through thick fog? Maybe you've been in a crucial meeting trying to contribute something meaningful, something impactful, but the words just won't come together in your mind. If you've nodded yes to any of those scenarios, you're not alone. In fact, more importantly, really, you're not broken. Nearly 30% of adults experience brain fog at some point. That said, we're diving deep into what brain fog really is, why it happens, who it affects most, and how you can start clearing it. In some cases, overnight. As Romans 12 and 2 reminds us, be transformed by renewing of your mind. So let's go on a journey of discovery to examine how faith and science together can restore your clarity and unleash God given potential. That said, your journey to clarity begins in.
Five, four, three, two, one. Let's go.
So I'm sure everybody's probably trying to figure out, why is it that we're talking about brain fog today? I know a lot of people who've experienced brain fog, and most of them are not men. So they're trying to figure out, so if they, men don't really experience brain fog, why are they talking about it? Well, I think it's important to talk about it because number one, men do experience brain fog, believe it or not. That's number one. And then number two, men who are married, have significant others or whatever, they need to have an understanding of what brain fog is and how it affects other people. So I kind of want to get into that real quick before I throw anything at these distinguished gentlemen. But first, I want to give a disclaimer. No one on this panel is a medical doctor. I want to make sure I say that up front. Like this young man right here, he has some medical training when he was in the army, but none of us have a MD behind our name. So I want to give that disclaimer first. So everything we're talking about is based upon research, conversations, understanding, experience, so forth and so on. Okay. So to get into it real quick, I want to kind of talk about what brain fog is. Brain fog, first and foremost, is not a disease. It is a symptom. Brain fog really is a subjective experience of cognitive dysfunction. Just kind of like think of it as like your mind's low battery warning. Some of the core symptoms are like slow thinking, forgetfulness, trouble focusing, word finding difficulties, and mental fatigue. Some associated conditions that go along with it is what they call long COVID. Now, if somebody know what long COVID is, put that in the comment section, please, because to me, COVID is COVID. So maybe there's a difference between short COVID and long COVID. Y'all help me out a little bit. So some of the associated conditions: long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, and more. Now, who's most at risk when it comes to brain fog? Brain fog is a widespread issue impacting nearly 1 in 3 adults. It is most commonly reported by women. I say it again, it's most commonly reported by women, particularly those experiencing hormonal changes such as menopause or pregnancy, and by adults in their 30s and 40s. People with history of, again, long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and autoimmune disease, migraine, depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders are especially at risk. Additionally, those in high stress or shift-based positions like healthcare workers, teachers, and caregivers are more likely to experience brain fog, especially when combined with poor sleep and lifestyle habits. Men are less commonly affected but still at risk, especially with a concussion history or chronic illness. Now, how does brain fog feel? And you guys in the comments, you guys can probably tell me a whole lot better. Cognitively, you will have trouble focusing. You become forgetful. You have like slow, what is called slow thinking, slow processing speed. Word finding problems, difficulty multitasking. Emotionally, you become irritable, frustrated, anxiety, depression sets in, low self esteem, and social withdrawal sometimes. Physically, you will experience fatigue, sleep disturbances, headaches, and sometimes pain. Bottom line up front when it comes to brain fog can make everyday tasks like working, managing your home, or even having a conversation feel overwhelming. It can strain relationships, reduce work performance, and erode your sense of self worth. I want to say that part again because that's the main reason why I wanted to talk about this particular topic today. It can strain relationships, reduce work performance, and erode your sense of self worth. Now, gentlemen, after getting all of that out the way and laying it all on the table, I want to kind of turn it over to you guys and ask you this question real quick. Have you ever experienced brain fog, whether directly or indirectly?
I guess, based off of all those definitions and everything that you saying, at almost 50, I would probably bear on the side that I have experienced some brain fog. As you were talking, I was thinking about how far back I can probably think about it. So what I'm thinking about, like I like how you said that, and you meant where you that you mentioned that it was a symptom, so I remember being a combat engineer, and one thing about combat engineers is when you're doing obstacles and stuff, you don't place the obstacles when you're in the field until um, you do it at nighttime. So you're up all day long, and then once it starts getting dark, then you go out and start putting in your obstacles and the different stuff like that. So, and then you're working all night long. And if you are the NTC, if y'all know what I mean, or JRTC or something, you get up in the morning and start the battle. So you're up all day long, you're working all night long, and then you up for the battle the next day until they call index. So being up for long hours like that, I guarantee I experienced some. In the military, having staff duty, 24 hours. Yeah, we used to getting up and doing PT, but they like, all right, bro, you got staff duty, you got CQ for 24 hours. You got to be up most of the time. If you E4 and below, a lot of times you go to work all day long and then you go back and do it. And then, sometimes the NTO may be at the desk or something like that all day, depending on where you at and stuff. So just staying awake for 24 hours. But I would guess I would say here more recently or since I've been out, I definitely have, experienced it, just sometimes working long hours, sometimes not being able to sleep at nighttime. Sometimes, like you said, it's a sign, it's a symptom. If we going back to long or short COVID or long or short brain fog, I think that probably now I don't experience it a lot. I see it more as it's a sign, it's a symptom. Hey, something's wrong. Um, Let me start trying to figure it out and then make an adjustment from there. But I guess if I'm going to shorten my answer up, have I ever experienced brain fog directly or indirectly? Then I would say yes, probably, definitely directly. I'm sure I probably experienced it indirectly too, but I'm gonna wait and see what you guys say, because I have my interpretation on what indirectly means, especially when you said relationships. So I'm gonna put a pin in that right now, and then I may circle back around to that indirectly part.
Well, I'm gonna take your pen out of that before you let
Take it
that
out.
air out. Because I think indirectly, I got 9 sisters. So when you have sisters and they start to get older, there's these hormonal changes that females go through, whether it's menopause or premenopause. And when they go through these things, you know, I've always heard, I didn't experience it with them. I experienced it through them where they would say they forgot things and they couldn't remember. And then it's like they just couldn't catch on as quick. And they would always call that brain fog in the military, or even before the military. Playing football on the defensive side, they always told you to see what you hit, and I didn't always pay attention. So I had a couple of concussions in there. So that would be a thing that could affect the brain. And also, when I had my heart issues, I had a lack of blood going to my brain. So when I came to, I didn't remember a lot, and I still don't remember some things that aren't foggy at all. They just aren't there. And also, I have it to where sometimes I do have brain fog. I do have it to where I'm trying to say something and it's like on the tip of my tongue. I know what it is, but I can't articulate it. I can't push it out of my mouth to actually say what it is. So I think people will look at this and say, well, is it a yes or no? I think in most cases, we do know people who have had some sort of brain fog, or we have experienced it ourselves, depending on our conditions, whether they be mental or medical.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm at. And yes, I don't mind if this is the Black Santa channel. Um, if you know, you know. And see, that's where I'm at. I don't know if I personally ever experienced it. Now, I do recall one day I'm walking through the house looking for my phone, and I mean, I am looking, I am seriously looking, bro. I'm like, man, I gotta go. And I'm like, I'm trying to find my phone, and then something just say stop. Oh, it's right here. It's in my hand. Is that brain fog or just forgetfulness or just not paying attention or what? I can't really say for certain, but it kind of it boggles my mind because I'm trying to figure out whether or not, have I experienced brain fog? Like, sure, I forgot some things, but I think that's just a part of thinking, to forget sometimes. Now, having a phone in your hand, I think that might be a little excessive. That might have been brain fog. I don't know. But yeah, it's I know people who's experienced say they have experienced brain fog, and I'm not that person to say that I don't agree or don't believe I wouldn't do that. Like if you say you experience brain fog, I believe you, and then I listen to some of the symptoms that they say they experience, and it lines up perfectly with what you heard me read earlier. But I think for me, I'm curious, like how did you recognize it was brain fog? Like I'm a start with rolling because I think what you said is that you had it. And for the
Yeah,
I'm sorry, and for the comments as well, because I see what you guys are putting in there. Put your responses in the comments as well. I really want to know, how did you know it was brain fog? Definitely. Go ahead, Ro.
right. Initially, like with my heart issues, when they told me, okay, you weren't getting enough oxygen to your brain, I wasn't even thinking about them. But then my brain was telling me certain things that weren't true. It's like if I saw something, like because I woke up and I was started off in San Antonio. I wake up, I see my mother and my father. I'm like, okay, so my brain told me a whole story. So now the brain fog comes when I'm trying to remember something. I'm trying to grasp it. And it's like almost like you had your phone in your hand if you were looking at it, but I couldn't articulate that that's a phone. I
Mm.
couldn't articulate that. Like, I know what this thing is I know what it is, I know what it does, but it just from here to it just can't, connect. The connection was off for me.
Let's see, that makes sense. I connect with that. Go ahead, Gar.
Yeah. See, I'm probably leaning more towards coach because, even if I was talking, I was starting off thinking like, I've heard of this word, but honestly, over the last couple of years, like when I was back in the military and, before the term brain fog or before this conversation, whenever I would have told that story, I would have never used the words brain fog.
Mhm.
I would have like, man, we was tired, we was exhausted, we were beat down, we were just wore out. So I kind of like what coach is saying. I don't know, even though I said yes, it was with some hesitancy because it's just not a term that I use normally in conversation or in my life. I've never like really died until this conversation is not something that I spent a lot of time talking about it all. I've seen it come across the screen and I've heard people talk about it, but there was never really something that I said, well, you know what? This is me. I have brain fog. For the sake of conversation, I was kind of wondering if those experiences in the military were brain fog. If the stuff that I'm going through now is brain fog, or like someone said, it gets worse as you get age, as you get older. Like how much of this is getting older, not just being, super keen and tied in or locked in with, you know, everything clicking really fast like it is at 17 and your 20s and stuff. As you start to age, a lot of people in certain areas start to decline. So it's like, but for the sake of the conversation, I wonder, and I think that it may fit into that category or that box of brain fog. But again, I can't definitively say, but if someone was to say, hey, like you saying, coach, if someone says they have brain fog, I'm with them. If someone was to say that, hey, man, you know what you're doing, you're experiencing brain fog, I'd be like, okay, like I can rock with that. I can rock with your assessment on that. And if someone's saying, oh man, you're just tired, you just wore out, I can rock with that assessment and their outside perspective of what I'm going through as well. So
And the reason why, and I just want to make sure I'm clear when I'm saying this, the reason why I am having the conversation like this is because I'm not that person. Like I don't want to jump on the bandwagon of a thing and say I have the same thing, whatever the case may be. Like, no, if brain fog, like you just heard previously, it's mostly women, then I don't want to rob that. You know what I'm saying? I know they don't want it. You know what I'm saying? I'm being honest. I know women I know they don't want brain fog, but it's an experience that they go through. So I don't want to kind of like lean over like, yeah, men experience brain fog too. It's not just I don't want to do that. I want to like that's why I'm talking about it like this. Like I am being completely transparent. I can't say in all honesty that I ever experienced brain fog. Have I done some things moving too fast? I think Lisa said it. That might have just been me being overloaded with a whole bunch of stuff that got going on. I'm thinking about this. I got to do this over here. I want to do this right here later. So I have so many things going on in my brain that a lot of times that things that are in my 50-meter targets, I really just overlook them. I remember one day I was looking for my keys and I'm on the phone at the exact same time. I could not find those keys to save my life. I say, hey, let me call you back. As soon as I got off the phone, I found the keys just like that. So that's kind of like what I'm saying. But I can't say in all honesty, based upon everything I know, and that's why I'm soliciting a lot of feedback. And I'm gonna bring what your comments to the stage here shortly. I can't say that I know with 100% certainty that I experienced brain fog. Go ahead, bro. I think you're about to say something.
Yeah, I think when I was growing up, my grandmother had developed dementia. But before that, and I don't know if you ever been around, my great grandmother raised me. So she could tell me word by word, play by play, what happened in 1968. But she couldn't remember things that happened yesterday. So like yesterday happened, like, oh, grandma, you like, and then she stopped, she didn't recognize me. She didn't know who I was at certain points and things of that nature. And you can say Alzheimer's and things of that nature. And those are things that affect women more. Anything like that, dementia, Alzheimer's, it affects women more. That's statistically. But the brain fog comes in where it could be either damage or something happened. Like if we just forgetful, that there's a difference from being forgetful.
Right.
Like I made a post a month ago or whatever. I had my glasses on my head because sometimes I'll be looking for something. Like, what the heck I put them glasses? I'm like you with the telephone and they sitting right there on my head. That I wouldn't consider that necessarily brain fog more than absent-mindedness. But
Right.
I think age has a lot to do with it. Age, or there can be some things like meningitis, which
Mhm.
affects the brain as well. So it's a lot of various factors.
You about to say something? Else?
yeah, because I get everything. But just like, Roland was talking about forgetfulness, like I'm looking over here and like one of the signs of brain fog is forgetfulness or poor recall.
Sure.
So it's like it can be forgetfulness, it can be I'm old, yeah. And mental fatigue, all of those things.
Sure.
So, as we're talking more, I don't know.
I think I think I just found something. Thank you, Queen V, because I think see this to me, and I really want to get after what everybody is saying. This to me makes sense. When you have brain fog, you know things you are aware of, but you just can't seem to comprehend them at the moment.
Mm,
That makes sense. That to me
okay.
is clear as a whistle because now I know for certain I can say I've never experienced that. In fact, the closest I ever came to that is being under anesthesia.
Yeah.
Thank you, Queen V, for that, because that makes a lot of sense. So let's kind of.
So is that the same as when you like, man, what's that, man? What's that other guy to be over here on Friday night?
Nah.
Like we all know who it is, but it just won't come to me. That's not the same
I
thing.
don't think so. I think that's more so of encoding and decoding, right? You have that person image in your head,
Yeah,
but for whatever reason, you're not connecting the image with the name,
Right.
yeah.
right? So you're trying to decode it, and then you're saying it out loud, hoping that somebody else get the trigger and decode it for you.
Mm,
And then if like my grandmother used to say, you give time, it'll come
yeah.
back. What I say? What happened?
No, I was thinking of the movie Life
Oh, I
when
got you. I already know.
when Martin forgot his name, then he was like Claude. It's
Yeah, yeah,
like yeah, but it's like if I got this cup, I know it's a cup in my
Yeah.
hand, and sometimes like I know what it is, I can see what it is. I just it can't
It
I
won't
just
come
can't
out.
right,
articulate.
right.
I can't get it.
And
And
that's why,
and it's frustrating and I have been there.
yeah, that's why I said that made sense to me. Because it's like you're aware of the thing, but it's just the dots aren't connecting. And normally those dots would connect. And that's where, in my opinion, and you guys can, in the comments, you guys can help me if I'm wrong. And that's where the frustration piece come in, because you know what this is, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, it's just not coming full circle right now. So that to me was crystal clear. We're going to start off with, yes, it's Maya's comment. We're just going to work our way down because they're saying some awesome things to kind of
Mm.
help make sense. And for any young ladies out there who are watching this is valuable information for you. So please soak this up. Maya said, pregnancy brain had me in a way. They tried to deploy my entire section except for me. No, sir. This work won't be done properly if you don't leave at least two of my soldiers to cover down. That makes sense. Next, Nick D said, I find that I am experiencing it at times now that I am perimenopause. This Perry person, I don't know who Perry is, but Perry is talked about a lot these days. Now that I am perimenopause, now that I'm perimenopausal, it can be a struggle, but you have to learn ways to get around it, and that is where we're going to go throughout the rest of this conversation. So thank you so much. She goes on to say, I feel it most when I am suffering from a migraine. There is a true loss of focus and clarity. I think yep, we already got hers. Let's see what Lisa says. I was told certain medications can cause brain fog, so I stopped taking it. That is good information, by the way, right? If medication cause brain fog, finding an alternative way to work with the concern would be ideal. So she said, if I can be created by if if it can be created by the use of medication, it sounds sus to me. I do not agree. Moving on, overload, being overwhelmed feels different in my opinion. Yeah, she was talking about me. His divine appointment was kind of bring us up to speed with this long COVID thing. Let me see where that was at because I seen it. There we go. Post COVID or long COVID. So I guess after, okay, let me just read it. Post COVID syndrome is more than a group of symptoms. It is a condition that can greatly affect a person's quality of life, functionality, and activities of daily living. According to the CDC, the most common lasting symptoms are fatigue, shortness of breath, cough, joint pain, and chest pain. Other common symptoms include cognitive problems, loss of smell or taste, difficulty concentrating, depression, anxiety, muscle pain, headache. Okay, so I get it. So in essence, now I'm going down a rabbit hole. I ain't gonna do it because to me it seems like that would be long COVID, but I mean I guess a spinoff of long COVID would be brain fog. Okay, that takes us to talking point number one. Talking point number one, the science of brain fog. It's more than just feeling tired. Next is brain fog is a real, there we go. Brain fog is a real measurable phenomenon affecting nearly 1 in 3 adults with roots in neurology, hormones, nutrition, and stress. And a quote that goes along with this is the mind is like water. When it's turbulent, it's difficult to see. When it's calm, everything becomes clear. Statistically speaking, about 30% of adults report experiencing brain fog, with higher rates among those with long COVID, migraines, and chronic stress. So, gentlemen, in your opinion, does understanding the science behind, or that there is a science behind brain fog, does that empower us to take the first step toward clarity? And if so, how would you describe that first step?
I think it would, because knowing that your brain operates off of oxygen, and oxygen comes through your blood. So when you're taking blood thinners, when you're taking anticoagulants and things of that nature, now you have where your brain may not be receiving what it needs. And when it's not receiving what it needs, it's like, okay, damage can occur, or there can be spaces of lack. So I think knowing the science can help alleviate those things, because you got a lot of young people that don't need ED medication, erectile dysfunction medication, but they taking the honey packs and all of this stuff, and they moving blood flow from one area to another, and not looking at the repercussions that could come along down the line. And you also have a lot of people like myself taking medications for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and this, that, and the other. And these things mess with your blood levels. So when that goes into this thing up here that controls everything, now it can have an adverse effect.
My bad. Before we move on to Garfield real quick, because you hit a lot of key points, especially with medication and things of that nature. So, what if I'm that person? Let's just say I experience brain fog, and I'm taking these medications, and I deem these medications to be a necessity. What would be like the first step? Like when you look at that question, bring that question up again, please. When you look at that question, like understanding that the science behind the presence of brain fog, but what would be the first step that I need to take if I am dealing with all these medications? The first step toward clarity. How can I gain clarity if I'm taking these medicines that I believe are, I mean, pretty much keep me alive?
I think there are always natural remedies to healing the body. I think we need to focus more on that versus putting various chemicals that they play with in the lab in our bodies to dictate the ebb and flow of how we move. So I think first and foremost, look and see how we can change our diets, to our diets and our exercise can help us tremendously when it comes to how we think in our cognitive levels.
Very good. I like that. I like that. What you got, Unc?
Does understanding the science behind brain fog empower us?
Sorry about that.
You get.
Went away. There we go.
There you go. Science behind brain fog empower us to take the first step towards clarity. If so, what is the first step? So I think anytime you get understanding about anything, I think I'm going to say yes to that first question. I think just having an understanding more about whatever allows you to at least be in a position to have some sort of an empowerment or whatever like that. If I'm looking at the first step, I'm thinking that you have to, what did my notes said? Name the signal before you're trying to fix it. So what I mean by naming the signal before you're trying to fix it is identifying whatever that thing is. Like when you recognize that you're in a position of brain fog or whatever like that, then saying, okay, well, this is this, because like we talked about before, it's a sign, right? So what is this sign trying to tell me? I think sometimes what we do is we don't always look at it or look at signs, and then sometimes we may or may not diagnose properly. But I think that if we can figure out exactly what that sign is first, and then go ahead and trying to fix whatever it is. So if it is X, Y, and Z. If it is, that I can't remember this. Why is it that I can't remember it? And then I think, doing a mental assessment or looking through your Rolodex of your day or whatever, like, what's causing this? Did I get enough sleep? Is my medication right? Did I take it at the right time? Am I hydrated enough? Did I get enough sleep? All of these different things like that. But I think it starts with identifying that first sign that you make, that first sign.
Yeah, I'm with all of that. I love the finding a holistic approach, and I want to caution
Mhm.
everybody first. Like, listen, I get it. Do not do the thing that is supposed to be good for you in search of a thing that can replace it. Do the thing that is prescribed to you. Search for the thing that can replace it, and then talk to them. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. They may not necessarily be open to it because that's how they get paid. I'm just going to be transparent. Do the research. You got to do research. Then after doing the research and seeing that it has worked, because worked for several different people, if you want to do it, I'm not advising you to do it. I can't advise you to do it. I don't have an MD behind my name, right? But I would recommend a slow weaning process. Don't just go full bore cold turkey, right? I recommend a slow weaning process because I think that's more advantageous to, you know, it's more advantageous to nothing serious. It's more advantageous to you to where nothing serious will happen in the long run. Ideally, that's why you wean instead of just dive into it. If you're weaning, you can start noticing things happening, and if that's the case, then you can kind of back up off of it. So I think that'll be the way. But I definitely agree with the change of the diet. I definitely agree with the exercise. I definitely agree with putting yourself in social circles with people who experience brain fog and are open to talking about it, and then listen to some of the things that they're talking about as well, and some of the feedback that they're getting. Let's see. His divine appointment said, "Do your research before seeking a professional opinion." I would say before and after, right? Because even though getting a professional opinion, that shouldn't be the end of the research. Research what the professionals said about the thing that they said. I'm sorry. It's not that I'm not telling you, not telling you not to trust them in their profession. I'm telling you that you need to know for yourself, right? So even in getting their professional opinion, do the research about their professional opinion, and then other stuff will be revealed to you as well. So thank you for that. Crystal said, I'm sorry, I didn't highlight that one. Crystal said, my doctor told me she approves and agree with me taking in. Wait, she said, let me see. I just put it up. There we go. She said, my doctor told me she approves and agree with me taking anything made with flowers, natural versus medicinal. Okay. Very good. Very good. Nick D, right up under that, said, yes, that is the correct order. I am speaking from a medical background. She don't want to bring it up. Okay. She said, yes, that is the correct order. I am speaking from a medical background, but I had to learn the replacements first. Queen V had a question. Thank you for that. What if you write down things? Would that help with brain fog?
I think that would be on a case by case basis because I think I've seen. If you ever seen the movie Life and Times of Ptolemy Gray with Samuel L. Jackson, where he had some cognitive issues and he would have things written down everywhere because they thought he was losing his mind, but then he started taking this medication to stimulate his mind. I think that may be for people not with brain fog, but with more severe issues like your you know what I'm thinking about, Alzheimer's and such, where you
Brain fog.
can't actually remember. It's not coming back.
Right.
That like, oh, that's what that's called. You can still read, you can still say these things, and that may stimulate thought. So it may help with certain things, but brain fog is a thing that's in the moment. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, man, I was supposed to be doing something. I know I'm supposed to be leaving, and you standing there in your skivvies, you in your shorts trying to walk out the door in the wintertime. Where, hey, yeah,
See, you see, see
yeah.
you Um, so Nick D said, not really, because it becomes a replacement for having to remember the thing. It does not take recall if you can go read it. It's a good point. That's a good point. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move forward. We got to kind of press forward. Let's jump to skip point number 2 and put that statement up there up under that. I think um, I think we need to understand that we have what is called a circadian rhythm, right? If you don't know, everything works in a rhythm. Your body works in a rhythm. Disrupted circadian rhythms and brainwave patterns are key drivers of brain fog, directly impacting our level of consciousness and daily performance. Okay. I say that because talking point number 2, which I skipped over, by the way, talking point number 2 is the rhythm of clarity, how our internal clock shapes our awareness. Now, that said, a good quote to go along with this is iron rusts from disuse. Water loses its purity from stagnation. Even so does inaction sap the vigor of the mind, Leonardo da Vinci. Statistically speaking, studies show that restoring circadian rhythm improves cognitive clarity and arousal, while disruptions can decrease alertness by up to 30%. Gentlemen, have you experienced fluctuations in your energy and clarity related to your daily routines or sleep patterns?
All day and twice on Sunday.
Okay.
Uh, yes. Yes, yes, and yes. I not too long. I took a week off, not a week. I took a day off of work, so I have insomnia. So the one that I have, or the type that I have, I can fall asleep, no issues. But if I wake up, I'm up. As I can't go back to sleep. So stuff like that. If I wake up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm normally getting up at 4, and then I have to be at work. Like if I'm up for 4 hours, like I have to call in. Like I'm like I can't come in today because, or either I will push it back and go in half the day. So definitely my daily routines and sleep patterns and stuff, like I'm at the age right now that the more I locked in with my sleep patterns and my routine of get sleeping good at night, getting up in the morning, getting my workout in, working all day, doing what I need to do, making sure I eat well and stuff like that, then getting into bed at a timely manner, shutting the devices off at a certain time and letting my mind relax, all these different things like that. When I'm locked in to that routine and that pattern, I'm usually kicking. I'm usually everything's, working a lot better. But when I'm off, when the sleep pattern's off or the daily routine's off, and I even know even just my energy can be adjusted sometime just based off of daily routines. When I don't work out for a couple of days because I may be under the weather or whatever like this, I feel that too. That can disrupt routines. How many people's routine got thrown off, when they're off for, a couple of days on the weekend, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm going back to work, man. I just got to relaxing all week, man." It's like Monday's like it'd be the longest day of the week, and it's because some of that we got to rest, we've got to recover and recoup. We've been on R&R for 2 days, and now we back to that grind of working and stuff, and trying to get our sleep time because some of us, not me, but some people sleep to 10, 11, 12 o'clock. You know what I mean? So when you do that for 2 days, when you're used to getting up at 6, throws things off sometimes. So I'm definitely agree. I mean, I have definitely experienced fluctuations in my energy and stuff like that based and clarity related to my daily routines and sleep patterns. So all day, yes, for me.
It's definitely a yes for me also. And when daylight savings time hit, and that day shift and it's getting darker, I felt it. I was like, man, I am drained, and I don't care what nobody's saying, what nobody's doing. Come 10 o'clock, I'm trying to be in the bed. I don't care what everybody else doing. My body says go to sleep, and because I know come 2, 3 o'clock, my body gonna be awake. Everybody else gonna be snoring, and I'm gonna be wide awake. So, and then I got to do something. I got to stimulate my mind. I got to read something. I gotta, and that's where I think we're gonna get into it because there's certain things that you can do to help assist you, and I'm quite sure it's gonna come up. But yeah, that circadian rhythm has to be a controlled measure rather than you just allowing things to just flow.
See, I'm glad you said that because for me, when I wake up in the morning, I already know if I'm going to take a nap that afternoon. It's already like my body is telling me, even I'm telling you, like right after I wake up, because I don't have insomnia, I just don't sleep long. I'm just saying. So I sleep maybe on average 4, maybe 5 hours a night. If there is any turbulence in that rest cycle, when I wake up in the morning, I feel it. And I automatically know there's a nap in my future that day. And I will plan to take a nap because if I do not, I am going to feel it internally throughout the rest of the day. I think when we look at this question, given that this is one of the things that kind of contribute to brain fog, I think we'll do well to listen to our bodies. A lot of times our body is giving us signals and signs and indicators about things that it needs. And a lot of times we just blow past it and push on as though it's not speaking to us. And the more you do that, and I'm speaking from experience, the more you do that, it's going to rob you of making the decision on your own. I'm telling you, when I was younger, I remember being in the army, and like you mentioned, staff duty and all kind of stuff like that. Well, it was nothing for me to get off staff duty, and I think I'm going to sleep, and I get home and I got a honey-do list. I got do this, I got to do that, and before you know it, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I got off at 9 o'clock this morning, and I haven't gone to sleep yet. That Saturday, because I had to go to work the next day. Now, let's keep that in mind. That Saturday, I thought I was going to the gym like I normally do. Let me tell you, I got up, I did my normal routine. I said, I'm just not going to hit the gym today. And I went round the corner. I said, I'm going to lay across the bed. I woke up at 8 o'clock that night. I slept for a majority of the day. I'm telling you, you're going to have to start listening to your body because if you don't, your body's going to say, you don't want to make the decision? Don't worry. I'll make the
Yeah.
decision for you. So that's one of the things that I think we have to be consciously aware of. And I think that's one of the major causes of brain fog. Now, that said, what small changes can be made to restore our natural rhythm and reclaim our mental sharpness? I just gave my disclaimer. If I feel tired, I'm going to sleep. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna add in addition to the sleep, but I'm gonna go with just having a sleep pattern. Now, everybody's sleep pattern is different, and I think when you go back to your point, is knowing your body or being in tune with your body or listening to your body, and that is how much time do you really need. Everybody ain't this 8 hour person. If you heard up here, Roland just talked about 10 o'clock, and then he gonna be up to 2:30. Coach just talked about the amount of hours that he needs to sleep every single night. So for some people, you might need your 10 hours of sleep. But some people may only need 4 to 6. And me personally, I've listened and I've heard different doctors and I've seen all different types of information on it. And I don't know if there's a real exact amount of time that we're supposed to sleep. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of other things that are not necessarily part of the equation. Like, how active are you during the day? You know what I mean? Are you at a cubicle for 8 hours a day? Or are you, doing construction or plumbing, and you up under someone's house all day long, what I mean, doing stuff like this or doing landscaping. Like, I think sometimes one of the things that, like I said, is not talked about is the context and what people do for a living when they do some of these studies as far as how many hours of night people need to rest and or to sleep or whatever. I don't know. But I think that like I said, one of the small changes, natural things is just getting in sync and get a good, accurate time that you rest and that you go to sleep, and making sure that your body's getting accurate or adequate rest for you and what's best for you.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm like you. I gotta have a schedule. I know when I get up, I do my thing in here, and then after I get out here, I got to do at least 5 miles. It's like I have to mentally, I because 5 miles helps me meditate, helps me do these things to clear my brain so that I'm not frustrated, and it also gets some exercise in. Just like we all know we people always talk about the itis. After we eat, we get the itis. You get the itis because you eating those heavy things that don't belong in your body in the first place. So now you get tired because you're putting more pressure on your systems, and your system say, "Hey, I need to take a nap. I need to rest because I'm gonna have to do something with this stuff." So now you start to get sluggish. When I was going through certain therapy, I had to take the TV out of my room because I don't care what it was. If I seen that red light on, that red light tells me something might be going on ESPN. So now I want to turn the TV on instead of being asleep. I want to see this back when Stu was on. So I want to see what he talking about on the cool at the other side of the pillow because my brain is telling me this instead of me dictate say, hey, this is sleep time. So now no TV in the room. When I go to the bedroom, I go to sleep.
I love it. I love it. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen, for that feedback. Real quick, Nick D, I want to greatly appreciate you and thank you for contributing to this show again. You always do, and we always appreciate what you do. Like I always tell people, for those who don't know, everything that's given to this show is given back to you in the form of some service or what in some service or capacity. That said, I do want to show everybody and let everybody know that January 31st will be a webinar, Beyond Needs to Needs, right? Divine provision through consciousness transformation. So, that being said, you have the QR code on the flyer. You have sent me email to a lot of you. You have the QR code here in the upper corner here. Make sure that you get access because again, it will go out fast, and I have a limited number of seats. So that said, we're going to keep pressing through. Again, you guys keep putting your information in the comments. You guys are doing awesome. Point number 3: brain fog is a mirror. What it reveals about our level of awareness. Brain fog isn't just a symptom; it's a signal that our awareness is clouded and that we may be living on autopilot, disconnecting from our true potential. That said, David Foster Wallace said, learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. Statistically speaking, cognitive cognitive slowness and forgetfulness are reported by over 60% of those experiencing chronic stress or depression. That said, gentlemen, given the state of the world today, do you believe we, for the most part, are truly present and aware rather than just going through the motions? I'll read it again. Given the state of the world today, do you believe we, for the most part, are truly present and aware rather than just going through the motions?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, no. I think we're going through the motions overall. I think overall most people are going through the motions. It's just like I get up in the morning, I got to do this, I got to do that. We're following a systematic approach to do everything else but take care of ourselves. TV says, "Hey, eat this." We see the commercials. Oh, now I want a honey bun, or now I want a Whopper, and you we automatically gravitate towards those things rather than us dictate. Say, man, it's salad Saturday, or it's let me not think to get this medication, to get these things to bring me up or take me down, and so forth and so on. We rather allow someone else to control us because it takes the responsibility out of our hands.
Um, I'm trying to see if I want to break that down to like a smaller part of that. And I think maybe I do. So I'll start with that. I think for the most part, we may be we're going through the motions, a lot of us, a lot of people. Like Roland, talked about, getting up in the morning, going through your routine and stuff like this. I think that there are some people who get up, the first thing they do is they grab their phone or they grab their device and then they're locked into that. So you're around these people and you're trying to have a conversation, but they're focused on whatever's over here, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next article, and the next scroll up. And then, it's like they have a lot of information, but they're not always present and aware because they're just going through the motions. So, like on a smaller scale, even in having conversations, as a high school counselor, I have kids that come in my office all the time, and some of them are coming there, and they'll have their phone down, and I'll say something, we'll have a conversation, we're talking, having a conversation. I'll turn around and check something on the computer, some information that they need. 3 seconds looking at a screen, turn back around, they've already picked back up the phone. Like they're not present or aware about everything. Or I'm like, hey, what about this class or something like this? And they're like, huh, what? And I'm just like, bro, like put your phone down and let's just be here. And because this is for you, like you the one who want to make adjustments to your schedule, but you can't even be present and aware about what's going on, what I mean, for the 15 minutes that we're here having this conversation. And I think to Roland's point is probably expounded out, and it probably is most of us. I see it at that level. I see it when I cut on social media, a lot of different places, interacting with people all the time, and just, seeing what's going on out there. I think a lot of us, or just a lot of people in general, are, for the most part, going through the motions. And I'm gonna add in a why sometimes. And this is not to give people a pass or anything like that, but sometimes going through that routine is because we got kids and we got a job and we got all of these different things going on. So I got to get up, I got to get the kids ready for school, I got to pack their lunches, I got to send them off, I got to make sure so and so's at the bus stop. Oh, I got to drop off, make sure I put in my time because I got to get off to so and so got a dentist appointment. Then I got to drive back over here. We got to eat out today because someone has practice today. So with all these different things going on, I think sometimes when you have a busy schedule, that can cause some of this to not necessarily be present and aware and going through the motions. But I think that's maybe a little different conversation. But I do think overall, a lot of us and a lot of people are just going through the motions for whatever reason versus being present and aware about what's really going on at the time. And that's just my perspective and my opinion.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I get the busyness, and everybody's busy. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes, a lot of times, I listen to like the all of the stuff that you mentioned in there, and some of that was out of necessity, and some of that was out of choice. And I think
Yes.
sometimes what we do is we make the choice to be busy,
Mhm.
because we think that's what we should be doing. And I'm siding with everything you guys said already. Like I think we go through the motions. I think it's really like, The Walking Dead part, season 50 or 50, whatever, however old you are, right? That's what season it is. And that's what we do. It's like we look for comfort zone to comfort zone to comfort zone to comfort zone. That's it. How can I be more comfortable? And then we just walk that path every day, to walk the beaten path. And then, we get to the point to where it's like, sure, we want something different, but we don't want to change anything about what we're doing. But I don't want to do anything. Just give it to me. So I think a lot of that exists. And what you're doing is you're shutting down, like there's not a whole lot of firing going on up here, right? It's not a whole lot of firing going on between your ears. And when there's not a whole lot of firing going on up here, like I mentioned previously, it goes kind of dormant. So it's like I'm living on autopilot, a program. I'm just doing the same thing day in and day out. That makes me less coherent. That makes me less intelligible. Well, if you look at the definition of clarity, that's what the definition of clarity is: the ability to process and be coherent and intelligible, to process, adapt, and change, and things of that nature. So the routines that we create, the routines that we find ourselves in, actually work against us. And that's a thing that we have to say. So to your point, to what everybody's saying, I'm agreeing that we literally just go through the motions day in and day out. And we try to find the most easiest path, and the path of less resistance to get to where we want to get to. But then that takes me to my next question. How might our lives change if we would consistently access that state of clarity and presence, that state to where I am coherent, constantly intelligible, because I am constantly thinking of different things to do, thinking of new ways to do. I am firing and wiring different things of that nature.
I think exactly what you're talking about is how I would rather move, because sometimes I wake up and I say, man, I need my coffee. And instead of my coffee, I should be needing to mentally get myself in a space before I say I need this coffee, because that coffee is going to give me a high and a low.
Yep.
Whereas if I meditate, if I pray, if I bring myself to where I, like you were saying, firing off, because the brain is not a muscle. The muscles are muscles. Muscles contract and grow and all this. The brain grows with information. The brain grows through that. It's more added in, but it doesn't expand. And when you don't expand it, it gets lethargic. And when it gets lethargic, now you start to say, man, what was I thinking? Now, like you said, unintelligible. You start to have those conversations. You start to lean in to say, let me watch the Housewives, because all those things are meant to dumb you down. That's
Yeah.
simply what it does. It dumbs you down to the space where you are watching the boob tube, because all you can do is say, and you're just sitting there instead of actually learning things to where you can actually articulate a thought. No, you can articulate their thoughts, not your own.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, thanks. How might our lives change if we could consistently access the state of clarity and presence? I think that if you can access that and then apply what you're learning during that time, I think you can have drastic improvements in your life overall, in whatever type of category that may be. I think sometimes when you can access that state of clarity and presence, I think it allows you to be able to master certain things. You know, people talk about mastery, 10,000 hours of something else, where it takes a long time to get 10,000 hours. And it takes a lot of dedication and consistency in order to get 10,000 hours in something. I'm just using 10,000 hours as an example of mastery. But I think that can definitely benefit your life in a positive way. I don't know with life if everybody who are listening to this has um or makes time to access their state of clarity or presence. I think that something like that needs to be more intentional versus just letting it happen. And what I mean by that, I think that people would benefit greatly by having a dedicated time each day, every other day, every week, whatever it is for you, to where you access that state of clarity and presence and then sit in it. Roland talked about, reading, he talked about praying, all these other different things, meditating or whatever like that. All of these different things that can get you a point to where you can access that state of clarity and presence. And then doing certain things like we talked about before, maybe getting enough rest. You know what I mean? So that your body is rested enough so it's in a state to be able to receive information on a constant basis and be able to apply information and just and all of those things help with being present in conversations and all of that. So I just think, based off all of that, it can only, if you can consistently access that state of clarity and presence, and then you can apply some of those things, I think it can do great things for your life. But I also believe that there's another side of that as well too. So
I'm just gonna leave it. Just gonna leave it right there, huh? No, I'm joking. I get it. I get it. I got it. No,
the
yeah,
polarity part of that.
yeah. The law of polarity must exist. I got it.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'm agreeing. And I think again, remember we're talking brain fog, and so it's like priming your brain to such a degree that it can handle the things when I'm not in my optimal state, when I do miss a few hours of sleep here and there, can I still function? Things of that nature. I add to the whole prayer and meditation and sleep and diet and exercise. Having conversations that challenge your normal trend of thinking as well. That's another thing. Having the ability, having mental agility is an important thing, right? Because if I'm not mentally agile, then I am mentally stagnant. And if I'm mentally stagnant, now everything must fit 1 + 1 = 2. And if it doesn't fit 1 + 1 = 2, I'm going to rebel against it and fight against it. So all of those things, I believe, add together to kind of keep you sharp and keep your brain firing and wiring and things of that nature. But that takes us to talking point number 4, which is the law of consciousness, transforming reality from the inside out. The law of consciousness teaches that by shifting our awareness and beliefs, we can literally change our experience of reality, including breaking free from brain fog. That said, Albert Einstein said a long time ago, and this is one of my most favorite quotes: no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. In fact, I go a step further. This mind that created this problem cannot be the same mind that solved the problem, right? So it's pretty much saying that mindfulness meditation, going back to Roland's point, mindfulness meditation can improve attention span by up to 23% and reduce symptoms of brain fog within 2 weeks. So that said, the question here: what limiting beliefs or thought patterns might be keeping individuals stuck in a foggy reality?
This is how, this is just how I am. I think that's one right there. I think I've seen this a lot of years, a lot of times, whereas, and coach as a coach, and I'm sure Roland, you probably have too, as been an NCO in the military, where we've had soldiers and people who believe that, what they think about themselves is necessarily the truth. And it's like, bro, this why you still stuck, because you keep saying this is just how I am. I can't learn from people who teach like this. This is just how I am. I need this sort of teacher. And if I don't have this sort of teacher, then I can't learn. I'm a audio learner. I don't learn from visual. All these different things that people say and have attached themselves to, I think is one of those reasons why, individuals and people get stuck in that foggy reality, because they never look outside or get outside of the bag and look at themselves and say, well, you know what? Yeah, this is, I think, what am I trying to say? I think there are times where things are just us, but I also think that we can evolve into certain things. I'm 5'6". I can't wish myself to be 5'9". I can't speak in tongues. I can't read the Bible. No, right, regardless of what I do, I ain't gonna be 6 foot. It just is what it is. So maybe that's one side, but on the other side, this is the way that God made me. On the other side is, you know what, man, I just can't. Every time somebody say something, I just got to say something back. That's one. Being the whole, let's get back to the foggy reality part of it too. It's like, this is just who I am. So it's just like, I think sometimes people just get stuck in saying that this is the way they are and they believe that this. And I think that presents a challenge, because now if they see themselves as that, then they realize, or they see it as, there is something that about them that they can't control and it's out of their hands. So it's somebody else's responsibility, and if not, then this is just going to be how it is. So I kind of went around, but I guess to close it out and keep it short, I think, one thing that keeps individuals stuck in the fog of reality is just saying, this is just who I am.
Mine is similar to yours, and it's just Black people don't. Black people don't eat that. Black people don't do that. Black people don't get therapy. Black people don't talk about. That might be the problem. I think that is a problem. That's a problem egregious on our community because it hinders us from growth in certain areas because we're thinking about what people did in the past that had limited education, limiting beliefs. So now we're stuck on what they did that didn't even work for them. So now you put yourself in that boat and say, okay, well, well, uh, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all that runs in my family. No, bad eating habits run in your family. You're eating all that salt pork, you're eating the pork chops, the fried foods, and all this stuff. And you wondering, talking about, ain't nothing wrong with me, but yet Big Daddy got his foot cut off. Why? Because he got the sugar. Now, he ain't got the sugar, he got diabetes. He got diabetes not because it just happened to come because he's black, but it happened to become because he was drinking I say sodas because we on here. He was drinking sodas. He was eating candy. He was eating them pies and those things. And when you do those things that are damaging to your body, and then you come up with the conclusion that, well, black people don't eat that. We don't do salads. We don't do this. We don't do that. It limits you from growth, which if we're talking mental, it limits us from growth to where we can make our children and their children better off.
Big Daddy been drinking that fire water. Um, I'm gonna go a less aggressive. Anything that you say that includes can't and don't. That's just it. Like those are limitations that you impose upon yourself. You don't know if you don't try, right? You will never learn if you automatically conclude yourself as being as can't. So even in our language is limiting in the way that we actually experience life. And a lot of times what we don't necessarily realize is that we cut off opportunities by the way we see it in the way we actually believe it to be. So when we look at these limiting belief and limiting thought patterns, we actually think our way out of a potential that is available for us, an opportunity that's there, and we reject a lot of things that are available to us that can teach us something more than what we actually know, simply because we have this mentality that probably just don't want to venture outside of what we already know. Now, I love this question that Miss Queen V, I'm sorry, I apologize, that Queen V asked because I think it's a great one. Can a person be out of touch be out of touch with reality and not even know it? For the sake of time, I'm going to answer this and move on. The answer is yes. In fact, most people who are out of touch with reality don't know it. In fact, they think that they're in touch with reality and want to argue with you about what you're sharing with them because their perspective of reality is skewed. So go ahead, Godfrey. Look, you about to say something. You leaned in deep. Oh, okay.
No,
Uh,
I was just yeah, I was looking forward to the response to that.
oh, okay. My bad. You had something you want to add? Okay. Um, let's move on to, let me see. Let's move on to part five. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We got a second question. I forgot. Let's move on to the second question of part four. How can we begin to intentionally direct our consciousness toward the life we truly desire? Now, this is in relation to brain fog before you answer, because I know you guys will swing for the fence. We don't want to talk about the fence. We're talking about brain fog. How can we begin to intentionally direct our consciousness toward the life we truly desire?
I think I'd say first and foremost, if you have any symptoms of brain fog, see what type it is, whether it's through medication, whether it's through injury, whether it's through stress or being tired or whatnot. When you look at that, then you can start to cater some type of program to counter that, if you will. Because if it's per medication, now we go to holistic approach. If it's because of injury, there may be some things that you can do to stimulate cognitive thought in that area of your brain that was damaged. There may not, but you can do something. So I think that if it's fatigue based, get some doggone sleep. Put yourself on a schedule and actually get some sleep. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So, Coach, Uncle has some.
Um, how can we begin to intentionally direct our consciousness toward the life we truly desire? I think whenever you look at intention, At least in this case, it requires um what's the word I'm trying to use? Some sort of data tracking or stat tracking or daily journal or something that you can kind of refer back to. So like if you're trying to be intentional about something, how can you measure this consciousness toward the life that you're trying to desire? I know with like a plan and stuff like that, you trying to do a plan for whatever it is. In most cases, that plan is written down. It's something that you can refer back to. You can make adjustment to it and stuff like that. So with this, how can we begin to intentionally direct our consciousness? I think that whatever plan or whatever it is that we come up with when it comes to being intentionally direct, I think that it has to be something, in my opinion, that we need to be able to look at and refer back to, almost like a plan or something like that. Because it's like we saying, hey, I want to live a certain type of lifestyle. Well, hey, I want to I want to drive a Bugatti and live in Beverly Hills. Okay, well that's fine, but what is your plan on how to get there? What is your plan on how to be, intentional with whatever it is that you're going through? And then as you're going through this journey, um along the way you may have to make some adjustments to it. So I just think, how can we begin to intentionally direct our consciousness toward the life we truly desire? I think by, having some sort of plan, and something that we're working on daily or every so often that we can refer back to and kind of ensure that we're still progressing towards whatever that intentionality is.
Yeah, I was showing. I apologize. I was showing everybody my MAGA hat earlier because somebody asked a question. So I just wanted them to understand that this is MAGA to me. That's so just saying. Anyway, I think in relation to this question, you have to make a decision. And when you make a decision, you cut off all other option that opposes that decision. That's the answer. So if I experience brain fog and it's my decision to do better, right? Not that you're doing bad, but to understand why I actually experience brain fog or whatever the case may be. We already talked about doing the research, right? Understanding the science behind brain fog. Then we talked about some things that we can do: get rest, exercise, eat better, you know, challenge my mind, have conversations that go outside of the normal conversations that I generally have, be open to other ideas that oppose some of the things that I'm thinking, because some of the things that I'm thinking might be the reason why I am in the position that I'm saying. Not saying that all of these are inclusive, because again, that goes back to what you guys were talking about. Some of the aspects of, pregnancy, menopause, things of that nature. But these things, everything that we talked about, can actually help in that regard. It won't stop the pregnancy. It won't take away the menopause. Got that part. But it can help to reduce the experience of brain fog in that regard. Make a decision to make that a part of your life moving forward. Make a decision to incorporate these things in your life, right? It may be necessary that, everybody else want to eat whatever they want to eat, but I got to eat what I got to eat for my, for my well-being and things of that nature, because I don't like experiencing brain fog. I think that's the key. When you make a decision, cut off all other option that goes against the decision that you made, because ultimately that's what the word decision means. So, great response. Greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate that, man. We got a 12 minutes. Let's move on to the the last section, which is talking point number 5: from fog to flow. Practical steps to renew your mind and life. Um, the next section says, combining scientific strategies like sleep, hygiene, and nutrition with mindset practices like mindfulness and visualization creates a powerful path out of brain fog and into transformation. The statistical data here states that cognitive rehabilitation and lifestyle changes have shown significant reductions in brain fog symptoms, with up to 4 points improvement in daily functioning. So that said, gentlemen, let me hit you with this last question. other than the ones previously stated? What is one practical step someone who has experience or is susceptible to brain fog can take this week to renew their mind and restore clarity?
Um, I'll go. I think sometimes it may have been mentioned. I think we may have mentioned earlier. Sometimes this brain fog can come from overstimulation. And I know we talked about these things, but maybe not to answer this question. So I'm gonna use this. Um, Not necessarily that, but shut everything off for a certain amount of time. Even if you do 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, something, do something consistently to just disconnect from any and everything. If you got a room, I know we talked about the meditating and stuff like this, but I'm, doing something, cutting things off for a certain amount of time. I think when you don't pick up your phone, when you don't cut the TV on, you're not getting exposed to a lot of outside things. When you're in your house and it's just you and your family, whatever, like this, you can sit there and be present and you can observe and you can see what's going on. Um, I think that, for me, I think it's something as simple as just disconnecting from everything for a period of time. And I think every day would be a good thing. If you stop, don't cut the phone on, don't cut the TV on, don't do something 30 minutes, 45, an hour, whatever it is, and then focus on something that can help you, something that's positive. Not saying that you can't learn or get great information from your phone or your computers and stuff like this, but you also got some great information up there that you can pull from. You spent the last 2 years scrolling Facebook or whatever, you got a lot of information. How much time do you spend taking that information, applying it, regurgitating it, seeing how it can help somebody else, seeing how it can help you, all of those different things like that. So just with brain fog, with the overstimulus piece of that, just lowering the amount of time each week that you are overstimulated can be very thankful or be very helpful. So just disconnecting from things for a certain amount of times, I think could be a really good thing.
And yeah, I saw that emphasis on the other than. So I got you. I'm gonna go. Mine is simplistic. I think sometimes we think of hydration and we think of water. You also need electrolytes because we're talking about brain fog. So we're talking about stimulation in the brain, and the electrolytes allow or it assists the brain with sending signals. It's just like a car battery. You just can't pour water in those cells. You got to have electrolytes so that like with us, it's your magnesium, potassium, and those of that nature, so that it can fire off. So when it's sitting in the signals to your arm, to your hand, to your fingertips, it has a way to actually travel and get that spark. Can't hear you, coach.
I love it. I love it. You are from the earth. Put your feet on the ground. I know I trust me, I get it. All your upbringing taught you otherwise, unless you grew up in the country. All your upbringing taught you otherwise, always taught you to keep shoes on your feet. Listen, something happens to you when you put your feet on the ground. I'm not talking about in your house. You got to go outside. Put your feet on the ground. If you are too afraid to do that, go and put your hands on a tree. I am telling you, there is some recharging that actually happens in you. In fact, just put your hand on the tree. Go find a tree, just go lean up against the tree and close your eyes. Stay there and just start meditating. Wait, I'm telling you, there's a connection. It's some electricity happening between you, the tree, and the ground. Do that. Make it a habit to do that. Do it once a day. I don't care if you're at work, go to the parking lot, find your favorite tree. Let your coworkers probably think you crazy anyway. Do it and watch what happens. I'm telling you, it's remember, brain fog is like your brain's saying it's low on battery. Go recharge your batteries. Put your feet on the ground or put your hands on the tree. And if you're brave, do both. I'm telling you, you'll notice the difference. And again, these are all just, you know, just tips, pointers, whatever the case may be. If it helps, great. I think we've done our job here. If it doesn't help, try something else. Just keep trying until brain fog is reduced. Listen, I want to make sure that everybody understands. I greatly appreciate all of your comments in the comments. All of these gentlemen, fine answer wherever you were. I just want to greatly appreciate you for joining us tonight. But as always, this brings us to our bittersweet point, our final thoughts. You're muted, bro.
I think tonight we had a really good episode about brain fog, and I think for some of us, it was needed. I think for some of us, it was um, what's the word? I think it's just something that we could all probably explore a little bit more. And we kind of talked about, early on in the show about whether certain symptoms and certain things were brain fog, or was it, old age, or was it just not remembering certain things. We had a really good comment from someone who kind of explained what that was. Thank you for that. But I think, what I kind of want to do my final thought about in addition to that is just, the title starts off with brain fog cured overnight. I think, when you're looking for a cure, I think that's where I want to kind of rest at for this final thought. Um, there If you are experiencing brain fog, I think that first you need to kind of identify, those times and what that looks like for you. And then I think you need to come up with some sort of plan or something like that to help combat the brain fog. And if you can't combat it, maybe lessen the amount of time that you spend in your day or your week in a certain level of brain fog. And I think that comes with having a plan, be able to execute that plan, and then being able to have some time where you go back and you look at that data and you look at that information and you trying to track your progress onto getting better with brain fog. So do I think it can happen overnight? Absolutely, 100%. I also think that there's another category of people who may um get the initial step or the information, but it may take them a little bit of time to go through it. So I think for anybody out there that's experiencing brain fog, I think one of the first things you should do is try to be able to identify what that looks like for you, and then come up with some sort of plan to help combat the brain fog that you have. And that's my final thought.
I love the topic. I think that this is a topic that needed to be had because I think most of us, if we've heard brain fog, we automatically just pushed it over to the side of, oh, that's for women. And it's not a female induced issue, but what it is an issue that needs to be talked about because there are some things that we can actually do to counter or to make things better when it comes to brain fog. And it's not uh, a an issue like Alzheimer that's not something that you can come away from. And you have different areas that, whether it be your medication, whether it be your diet, whether it be just the way you live, if you're up all night and you're tired and you have anxiety and these things, then that's something that you can actually work on putting yourself on a schedule, work on your diet, work on your health. So make sure you get out there, get some hydration, get some exercise, read a book instead of scrolling all day. Read a book, stimulate your brain growth as well as your physical muscle growth. Because at the end of the day, this is the only one you got. You can't get another one. And once it's gone, that's hey, That's it in a nutshell. So make sure, as Coach was talking about grounding, I make sure I ground at a minimum 2 days a week. I do. I go in my backyard and I stand in the sun or whatever may be shining, and I ground. I make sure I ain't no ant piles around. But this brain fog thing, it can be caused by your medications. So that's why you gotta those pamphlets that they give you. Read the pamphlets. Make sure you know the contraindications and indications and all these things so that you aren't just taking something over a long term period. And then when things happen and your body starts to fail, you're like, I don't know what happened. No, you do know what happened because they tell you what could happen in those pamphlets that they give you, but we don't read them. And then when things do happen, we're going to get new medications to counter the old medications. So make sure that you are the one that's taking care of your body, taking care of your mental, and actually loving yourself enough to know when things are changing to where your cognitive arena is in question.
I greatly appreciate all of that because I couldn't have said it any better. I think the key for everybody to understand is that when it comes down to brain fog, you're not broken. Okay. You're not failing. Brain fog is real, it's treatable, and it is temporary. That's the key. God designed your mind for clarity and renewal. It is important for us to understand the cues that our body is giving us in real time, right? Listen and pay close attention, and then implement some of these things we talked about. We talked about creating a sleep sanctuary. We didn't necessarily go into the sanctuary aspect of it, but just like you set the conditions for anything else you do, like if you're going to cook something, you get all of your ingredients and you prepare to cook. You need to prepare to sleep. I don't know of a lot of people who do that. At least I know I can't say I've done that in the past. Set the conditions to sleep, right? Create a phone-free sleep environment. Only you and your alarm clock if you need one for that evening. It shouldn't be no TV in the bedroom. I can't tell you not to put one in there, but I mean, I don't see the need for a TV to go in the bedroom, right? There should be some type of movement that you're doing in the morning. Okay. A good idea, a good rule of thumb is at least 20 minutes of something, some type of physical activity. Hydrate, drink a lot of water, at least 16 to 20 ounces of water a day. Make sure that you're eating, high protein, rich foods throughout the day, whatever the case may be. Stress management. I think it's important for us to at least write down our 3 top stressors. And then, find a way to overcome those stresses. There is no problem that you can't overcome. The problem is that you haven't thought into it enough. Right. So write down the top 3 stressors that you're experiencing right now and think into solving those problems and then solve them. That's simple. I think a lot of the stresses that we have that are ongoing stressors, they'll continue to be so because we don't think into them. Okay. And then get into the mind renewal practices that you heard us talk about. You heard grounding, you heard meditation, you heard prayer, you heard conversations, you heard reading, you heard all of these things. There's a number of different things that you can go through. Again, remember, you were not created to live in mental fog. The same God who spoke light into existence designed your brain to heal and thrive. The fog is not your permanent address. It's just weather passing through. So make sure that you share this episode. You can bring me down. Make sure that you share this episode with somebody else who needs to hear it, somebody who can benefit from it. Again, do not forget to register for January 31st because January 31st, 997. It's not even a soda in a pack of nabs these days, right? Again, I think it's going to be a phenomenal conversation. Listen, greatly appreciate you guys. Greatly appreciate all you guys in the comments, you guys who are passing through and stopped in and listened for a little bit. We appreciate you guys as well. Remember, every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Hearts of Men podcast. This Sunday, again, Bible study at 9:30, 11 a.m., 11:30. I will be hosting I would be hosting TikTok Live, and I think I got a little something up my sleeve. So I think you guys will enjoy it. So make sure that you're tuning in. That being said, we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place on the Hearts of Men podcast. Enjoy your evening.